The prosecutor grabbed his family and fled Germany, not from prison, from a man inside prison. Because even behind bars, Necati Arabaci had already put a hit on him. This is how he stayed untouchable for 20 years, running brothels from a cell, ordering murders through visiting room whispers. And when they finally deported him, that wasn't punishment. That was a promotion. They called him Neco. Real name, Necati Arabaci. Born February 14, 1972. And in Cologne, Germany, he wasn't just a gangster. He was God, president of the Hells Angels, controller of the city's entire nightclub district, the man who turned bouncers into pimps and dancers into prostitutes. And the German authorities? They couldn't touch him, not for lack of trying. They arrested him, convicted him, locked him away for 9 years. But here's the thing about Neco Arabaci. Prison didn't stop him. Deportation didn't stop him. European arrest warrants didn't stop him. Because today, right now, he's living freely in Dubai, running operations across 3 continents. And there's absolutely nothing anyone can do about it. But what they didn't know back in 2002, when they raided his clubs, he had a plan, a backup plan, and a backup to backup. Because Neco didn't just build a criminal empire, he built a fortress. Legal loopholes, international borders, loyalty codes thicker than blood. And by the time the authorities figured it out, he was already 3 steps ahead. If this already sounds insane, hit subscribe, because what he did from prison is even worse. Let's go back. 1990s, Cologne, Germany. The Kölner Ring Entertainment District. Rows of nightclubs, pulsing bass, neon lights reflecting off wet pavement. Every club had bouncers. Big guys in leather jackets checking IDs, breaking up fights, keeping order. Standard stuff. Except Neco Arabaci wasn't standard. He started as a bouncer, just another guy working the door. But he saw something nobody else did, an opportunity. Because bouncers didn't just control who got in, they controlled everything. The flow of people, the flow of drugs, the flow of money, and most importantly, the flow of vulnerable young women. The method was simple, elegant even. His crew of bouncers would befriend girls at the clubs, buy them drinks, compliment them, make them feel special, safe. And once trust was established, exploitation. They'd offer modeling jobs, acting opportunities, quick money for private parties. And by the time these women realized what was really happening, they were already trapped, working in brothels across the Rhine-Ruhr region of Germany. And every cent they made went straight to Neco. This wasn't just a side hustle. This was industrial-scale human trafficking. The so-called Arabaci clan controlled the bouncer scene of every major nightclub in Cologne's entertainment district. Dozens of venues, hundreds of bouncers, thousands of potential victims walking through those doors every single night. And Neco, he took a cut from everything. The clubs paid him for security. The girls paid him through forced prostitution. The drug dealers paid him for access. It was a perfect criminal ecosystem, and he sat at the very top. But then came the Hells Angels, the most infamous motorcycle club in the world. Founded in California in 1948. Chapters in over 50 countries. A brotherhood bound by leather, chrome, and a code of silence that makes the mafia look chatty. And in Germany, they wanted Cologne. But Cologne already had a king, Neco Arabaci. So they made him an offer. Join us, bring your empire, and we'll make you president. He accepted. And just like that, the Arabaci clan became the Hells Angels Cologne charter. Neco wasn't just a pimp anymore. He was a president, an outlaw biker with an international network, connections to organized crime across Europe, legal protection through the club's lawyers, and a reputation that made grown men cross the street. If you crossed the Hells Angels, you didn't just lose a fight, you disappeared. By 2002, Neco controlled multiple brothels, the Coliseum in Augsburg, operations throughout Rhine-Ruhr. His income was in the millions, Deutschmarks flowing faster than he could launder it. He drove expensive cars, wore designer clothes, and the German police, they were watching. Wiretaps, surveillance, undercover operations, building a case brick by brick. And on one cold morning in 2002, they struck. Raid sirens, battering rams, federal agents flooding through doors across Cologne. Neco was arrested, charged with pimping, human trafficking, assault, extortion, weapons violations, and racketeering. The kind of charges that put you away for decades. And the evidence? Overwhelming. Financial records, witness testimony, surveillance footage. The prosecutor had him dead to rights. But here's where it gets dark. Because Neco didn't panic. He didn't lawyer up and hope for the best. He did something that still makes investigators sick to their stomachs. He confessed. In 2004, during his trial, Neco Arabaci stood in that courtroom and admitted to everything. Trafficking, extortion, violence, all of it. And the judge sentenced him to 9 years in prison. Case closed. Justice served. The monster was locked away. Except the monster wasn't done. Not even close. The Coliseum brothel in Augsburg kept operating. Business as usual. Money kept flowing. And police were baffled. They had the boss in prison. They dismantled his organization. Arrested his lieutenants. Frozen his assets. So how was the brothel still running? Then they got a tip. Neco was still controlling everything from inside prison. Through visitors. Through coded conversations. Through a network so tight that even behind bars, his word was law. Police made a decision. They bugged his visiting room. Hidden microphones. Recording every single word. And what they heard made their blood run cold. Neco wasn't just running brothels. He was ordering a hit. The target? His own prosecutor. The man who put him away. According to the transcripts, Neco had hired an Albanian contract killer from Duisburg, a professional, someone who wouldn't hesitate, someone who wouldn't miss. The plan was in motion, and if police hadn't been listening, the prosecutor would have been dead within weeks. Police scrambled. The prosecutor was pulled from his office, given bodyguards, round-the-clock protection, his family relocated, and prosecutors prepared a new case against Neco, not just for murder conspiracy, for Sicherungsverwahrung, indefinite imprisonment for extremely dangerous criminals, a legal mechanism Germany reserves for people who can never be released, people like Neco Arabaci. The trial began. The transcripts were entered as evidence. Police testified. Experts analyzed the recordings. The prosecutor sat in the courtroom, alive, but forever changed, knowing that even locked in cell, Neco had tried to kill him. And the defense? They did something brilliant. They challenged the transcripts, claimed mistranslation. Turkish to German is tricky. Idioms don't translate perfectly. Slang can mean multiple things. And in court, reasonable doubt is everything. The defense argued that what sounded like murder plotting was actually just tough talk, prison bravado, empty threats. And incredibly, unbelievably, the judge agreed. Mistranslation detected. Case dismissed. Neco Arabaci was acquitted of the murder conspiracy. He'd still serve his original 9-year sentence. But no indefinite imprisonment. No life behind bars. Just 9 years. And with good behavior? Less. What happened next changed everything. 2007. Neco Arabaci was released from German prison. But there was a catch. He wasn't German. He was Turkish-German. Dual citizenship. And Germany didn't want him back on their streets. So they deported him, put him on a plane to Turkey, banned him from ever returning to the European Union. The prosecutor finally breathed easy. Neco was gone, exiled, powerless, out of reach. The prosecutor fled anyway, left Germany in 2007, took his family and disappeared, because he knew something German authorities refused to believe. Neco Arabaci wasn't finished. Before I reveal what happened next, drop a comment. Do you think he's still running things from Dubai? Because what comes next, nobody saw coming. Everyone thought deportation to Turkey in 2007 meant the end. The German authorities celebrated, closed the case, moved on. But what they didn't know, deportation wasn't punishment. It was a promotion. Because in 2010, Necati Arabaci walked into a secret meeting in Izmir, Turkey. International Hells Angels bosses flew in from across Europe, Germany, Spain, Netherlands, Austria, legends of the outlaw biker world. And when that meeting ended, Neco walked out as president of the Hells Angels MC Nomads Turkey. Not just a member, president, the Nomads chapter, the elite, the guys who don't answer to regional charters, the guys who move between countries, international operators. And Neco? He was now running operations across the Middle East and Europe from a country where European law meant absolutely nothing. Turkey doesn't extradite Turkish citizens. It's in their constitution. Doesn't matter what you did. Doesn't matter how many countries want you. If you're Turkish, Turkey protects you. And Neco knew this. He'd planned this. From the moment he was arrested back in 2002, he knew deportation was a possibility. And he'd spent years building connections in Turkey. Hells Angels infrastructure, loyal people, safe houses. By the time he was deported, he wasn't walking into exile. He was walking into a kingdom. Police in Germany still suspected him of controlling the Colosseum brothel in Augsburg, even from Turkey, even years after deportation. In 2008, members of the Arabaci clan were spotted in Berlin, trying to gain a foothold in the city's red light district, expanding the empire. And there was nothing police could do. Neco was untouchable, literally. But Turkey wasn't enough, because Neco had bigger plans. He moved to Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, a glittering desert metropolis where money talks and extradition treaties are suggestions, where billionaires hide fortunes and criminals hide themselves, and where Necati Arabaci set up his headquarters, not hiding, living openly, freely, running his empire through encrypted phones and loyal intermediaries. Then in 2013, something massive happened. Frank Hainbuth, the president of the Hells Angels Hanover chapter and de facto leader of European Hells Angels operations, arrested in Mallorca, Spain, charged with money laundering, extortion, and organized crime. The kingpin was gone, and the Hells Angels needed a new European leader, someone with experience, connections, someone who'd proven he could operate under pressure, someone untouchable. Necati Arabaci was seen as a possible new leader, the guy who'd gone from Cologne bouncer to Turkish president, the guy who'd run brothels from prison and ordered hits from a cell, the guy who'd turned deportation into expansion. He had everything the Hells Angels needed, and more importantly, he had something no one else had: total immunity from European law. But Spanish authorities were paying attention. They'd watched Neco rise, watched him expand, and in 2015 they made their move. Spain issued an arrest warrant for Necati Arabaci, valid throughout the entire European Union. The charges? Membership in a criminal organization, extortion, drug trafficking, and involvement in brothels in Spain. The warrant was serious. If Neco stepped foot in any EU country, he'd be arrested immediately, extradited to Spain, put on trial, potentially locked away for life. So what did Neco do? Absolutely nothing, because he wasn't in the EU. He was in Dubai. And Dubai doesn't extradite to Spain. Turkey doesn't extradite Turkish citizens. And Neco Arabaci, he just kept living his life. Reports from insiders suggest he signed a cooperation agreement with United Tribunals, another massive street gang operating across Germany, expanding his network even further, running operations he'd never even see in person. Because that's the genius of Neco's system. He doesn't need to be there. He built a machine, loyal soldiers, trusted lieutenants, a code of silence enforced by reputation and fear. The Hells Angels motto? 3 can keep a secret if 2 are dead. And Neco made sure everyone understood that. Today, in 2025, Necati Arabaci is 53 years old. He lives in Dubai. No extradition treaty. No European arrest warrant that can reach him. No German prosecutor who can touch him. He's wanted in Spain, suspected in Germany, banned from the entire European Union. And yet he's completely free, untouchable by the very laws designed to stop men like him. Police still believe he controls operations across Europe. Brothels, drug trafficking, extortion. The same empire he built 30 years ago in Cologne. Just bigger now, more sophisticated, harder to track. Because Neco learned something most criminals never learn. You don't need to be present to be powerful. You need loyalty, infrastructure, and borders that keep your enemies at bay. The prosecutor who fled Germany in 2007, he made the right call. Because even though Neco never followed through on that hit, the threat was real, the willingness was real, and the fact that he tried to organize it from inside a German prison, that tells you everything you need to know about Necati Arabaci. Rules don't apply to him. Borders don't stop him. Prison didn't break him. He turned 9 years in prison into an international promotion. He turned deportation into strategic relocation. He turned an arrest warrant into irrelevant paperwork. And he did it all while following one simple rule. Stay where they can't reach you. There are questions that still haunt investigators. Does he still control the Colosseum? Probably. Is a united Tribun's cooperation real? Probably. How much power does he actually have in Dubai? Nobody knows. And that's exactly how Neco wants it. Because the less they know, the less they can do. And as long as he stays in Dubai or Turkey, there's absolutely nothing they can do anyway. The Hells Angels code is loyalty above all. And Neco proved it goes both ways. He protected his brothers. They protected him. Even when German authorities threw everything at him, the organization held. The code held. And Neco walked free. Necati Arabaci built an empire on fear, loyalty, and legal loopholes. He turned bouncers into pimps, nightclubs into recruitment centers, prison into a temporary office, deportation into promotion. And today, he lives freely in Dubai, untouchable by the very countries that want him most. So what do you think? Is he a criminal mastermind who beat the system? Or just a coward hiding behind Turkish citizenship? Drop your theory below and subscribe for next week's case. The mobster who infiltrated the FBI for 20 years and was never caught. You won't want to miss it.